All right, welcome back to another exciting episode of What If, the series where we talk about what if certain cards from the ban list were actually legal in Edison format. And for today, we are going to have one of the most iconic cards in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, Crush Card Virus. So, I want to start this one off with a history lesson because I actually lived through the time of Crush Card Virus. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When it was a prize card under the company UDE Upper Deck Entertainment, and it was probably the most egregious prize card in TCG history, like across the board. Crush Card Virus was so ridiculously powerful back when it was released as a prize card that the people who won them ended up winning multiple more times. Their teams would win multiple more times. People would lend them to their teammates. I think Team Overdose was one of the teams that had more than one. Once you won one, either you or a friend could literally just go and win the next YCS. At the time they were called Shonen Jump Championships, but it was one of the most unfair things, not only because the card itself is broken and overpowered, like it literally is the most powerful prize card ever printed, but because no one could have it, it was such a small pool of people who would enter a tournament and just have access to the most powerful card in the game at the time. So that was like a mistake on Upper Deck's part, and luckily they never printed anything on that power level. We've kind of gone the other direction now in Yu-Gi-Oh, where the prize cards are now vanilla monsters, which I liked at first, but now they're on like the fourth another verse monster, and it's worn thin. Something else needs to happen. It's not exciting when a new prize card comes out like it used to be, so that kind of bothers me. So they've gone from the extreme. Crush Card Virus is the extreme where it's too good, it's too broken, and the person who wins just wins again. But then you have like now the person gets a vanilla monster and it's not so great, and I kind of want them to change that, but I digress.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you in the history of prize cards. Crush Card, they definitely went a little too OD with it, but nowadays, in terms of the sentimental value or even the monetary value of prize cards, Jesse Cotton a long while ago made a YouTube video about prizing in Yu-Gi-Oh, and he made a pretty good point where it's like Yu-Gi-Oh players, they love Blue Eyes White Dragon, they love Dark Magician. But these guys have never had a prize card of like an alt art or a special card with like Blue Eyes, the YCS champion dragon or some shit.
Yeah, like
that.
a different art that only could be gotten through winning a YCS. That would be very cool and very expensive too. So I like that.
Yeah, that seems like the direction that makes the most sense in my mind that prize cards, should be going into, because no one has any sentimental attachment to fucking Xenoblade, Ex Machina, anime fanfic monster. Like, no one cares about what that thing is.
Yeah, so the Neververse monsters are not so great. At first, like I said, I thought it was kind of cool, but now they've worn thin. So let's get on to Crush Card. In Edison format, if we had Crush Card, the game would be absolutely unhinged. Now, granted, I think that because Crush Card was never at more than one, at least I played through all the formats where Crush Card was legal, and I'm pretty sure it was never at more than one. So it was always limited to one. So in Edison format, let's assume it's limited to one. I'm not, Card Safe Return was that we had that at two. We had a tournament and it was absolutely ridiculous. Card Safe Return is absolutely ridiculously broken. Junk Frogs and Amaryllis were the top two decks in the tournament. Check out that VOD if you haven't seen it. I shout out to Tim Ponce and Bruno Pino for showcasing how powerful Card Safe Return is in their respective decks. But yeah, Crush Card Virus is like, we didn't have value when Crush Card came out back in the day. Like when I was playing and Crush Card came out, my friend sold me one for like $200. I think they were like $250, and he gave me a good deal on one. It came out in Gold Series when it got reprinted so that everybody could access it. And this is around a time of like Glad Beast format where people would literally play DD Crow, Sangan, Spirit Reaper in their Glad Beast deck just so that they could resolve Crush Card Virus because it was that strong. And then until that format, we had Doom Lord, Malicious was at 3. There was a lot of ways to get, Sangan if you wanted to play that. There was a lot of ways to get off until that. And it was an iconic card until that format, which is also one of the most iconic formats to date as well. But now in Edison, right, like Vayu is one of the best decks, right? Vayu is also played in more than one deck. It's played in Black Wings and it's played in actual Value Turbo. It would be ridiculous, right? Like, I think that Value is a huge winner if Crush Card is in a format. What do you think, Stango?
Yeah, I mean, Value for sure, and especially builds that also play like Shora in their Value deck as like a little tech, because anytime that Shora can get a little cheeky battle damage in, you just have a recruitable Crush Card target that also pays dividends going into your graveyard.
Yeah.
Not only with Vayu, but funnily enough, even though Frogs is not really known too much to be like a dark monster deck, there's actually a lot of cards in the utility package of Frogs that actually can utilize Crush Card.
Yep.
And even so much more, I think actually utilizes it in a way that's really effective for their strategy, because a lot of the times for Frogs in particular, their monsters that plague or trouble them the most can sometimes be some of the bigger monsters like Dark Arm Dragon, Gores, even like Vanity's Fiend,
Yep.
and
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of
Oh, wow.
there's a lot of cards in the Frog ecosystem that can be meshed into an engine to solidify or make Crush Card more playable.
Yeah. Infernal
example,
Prodigy. Yep. Infernal Prodigy is one of them. It's searchable by Stratos. We play Hero Frogs.
Correct. Same with Mally.
Yep.
Mally is also, he kind of gets double the benefit, where I feel like Mally in Hero Frog builds, or just Frog builds in general, he's really weird, where unlike Diva Hero, where generally when you are making your play with Malicious by discarding with Greffer or doing anything like that, you're using the Mally that turn.
Right.
In Frogs, because you are restricted by not having too many special summons, like it's generally Monarch on your Mally or Substitute on your Mally.
Right.
There isn't a lot of extender plays that you can do with Mally, and sometimes Mally just rots in the graveyard. I've played Hero Frogs with Mally, and I've had a live Mally for multiple turns in my graveyard, and I'm like, I can't really use this unless I just want to be like, I have an 800 guy on the field.
Right.
But with Crush Card, that's plenty of value. But one new card in particular that I think has fallen out of favor in Frogs in general, just because of speed issues, that also is insane utility because it searches all the most important parts of the Frog engine, is Sangan.
Yeah, Sangan we played in Frogs for sure.
I think Sangan in Frogs is like, it's so vaguely good. It gets Substitute, it gets Swap Frog, it even gets your hero water monster, or just hero in general to like Special Prodigy, get a Caius out. But it's just the issue of speed, the issue of Shora attacking it. But if you can just be like Sangan search on command, kill your most aggressive monsters, which is a heaven send for Frogs. Anytime that they can get rid of the big monsters, that gives them more turns to do draw pass, take like 1400 damage. They don't care about that.
Yeah, the big thing is that Crush Card Virus, unlike DDV, gets rid of big problematic monsters. So you mentioned Vanity's Fiend, which is insane. That imagine a Frog player losing to Vanity's Fiend and they just go set Infernal Prodigy, set Crush Card Virus, pass, and now they get to Crush Card you, take away the Vanity's Fiend. And also the coolest thing about Crush Card is that you can't get Monarched while Crush Card is active, like realistically. So this also means that Vayu would have a better matchup against Frogs too, because Vayu could safely then start setting their Raikos and Hamsters and all that nonsense under Crush Card. Like once they Crush Card the Frog player, they're like, well, I can't get Caiused. It's not possible for you to Caius me now. It's not possible for you to Rise me now. So all Monarchs just get ruined by it, and they're able to freely just set their guys without any repercussions. That would be a really, really big thing. Also, them getting to put the value in the graveyard, as opposed to DDV requires them to use their Arm Wing a lot of the time to activate DDV. And this is a drawback because it takes away your aggression in the Frog matchup. When you DDV me, sure, you can like hit a couple Frog cards or whatever, but if Treeborn is already established, that's not even that good. And two, you are removing your 2300 beater to open yourself up. So like now if I show you a hand that has tribute monsters or miracle fusions or whatever, or like E-Call or Rhoda, you're kind of screwed in that situation. Crush Card Virus is like, okay, sure, you get to keep your Frogs, but you can't threaten me with any of the Monarch engine. And that is really, really, really strong. The fact that it breaks up boards, and the fact that Value gets to put the value in the graveyard, which sets up the Arm Wing as opposed to getting rid of the payoff. That is a really powerful thing about Crush Card.
The biggest duality of like DDV to Crush Card is DDV, oftentimes you're building up and investing your resources into doing, hand rips, versus Crush Card, it actually is setting up your further plays and engines down the road. And it has the duality of like, you don't have to use the card instantly, because anytime someone's making a normal summoner play, it's generally something that is going to be destroyed by Crush Card Virus. So you can actually save it for a lot of defensive capabilities as just a Raigeki. Like imagine your opponent going for game with like Return. All those monsters that are coming out of that banish zone with Return, those are all open to get crushed. Your whole field gets crushed up by just a puny little DD Crow.
And it could just leave the BS on the field. Like, sure, you get to keep your Necro Guard and you get to keep your Vayu, but you can't really do anything with those cards unless you specifically have Plague Spreader or Zombie. The Sirocco's going to the grave is not even a problem because the Vayus are just going to get banished on the end phase. So that is really good. Gores becomes a bit worse in the format too, just because a lot of times what'll happen when I play Frogs and people will DDV me, but they'll see Gores, and so now they can't attack me for however long. So they know I have Gores now, and they don't have a good answer for Gores. So they just have to wait. And Crush Card Virus is like, well, it gets rid of Gores and it gets rid of all the Monarchs, as I've said already. So then you're able to freely start attacking right after a Crush Card. And that is just the fact that you get to be aggressive after Crush Card, knowing there's no possible Gores, like no matter what, they just can't be a thing. That is actually so annoying. It also, Crush Card was so impactful that it influenced deck building in 08. I remember looking at my Teledad deck, and counting like, okay, I have Stratos, I have double Dark Arm, and I played Plasma at the time and Greffer. So I have very few Crush Card targets. The thing is, Crush Card hits your extra deck too. So, and this is the thing that DDV really doesn't do. Crush Card hits the extra deck monsters. DDV doesn't hit really anything in the extra deck, whereas Crush Card actually hits the extra deck. So even though your main deck didn't have anything that could get Crush Card, or like very few cards that can get Crush Card virus, your extra deck, the whole extra deck got Crush Card except Stardust Dragon. So it was really awkward because at that time, Colossal Fighter was actually the best synchro to make. Colossal Fighter, which is really hard to deal with. You couldn't be Goyo. Stardust can't beat it. Thought Ruler can't beat it. Red Dragon Archfiend can't beat it. So you make Colossal Fighter a lot, but then Crush Card ruined that card. So it's just like the extra deck getting hit by Crush Card is huge. Gore's getting hit by it is huge. And then your deck building is awkward in the format where we have DDV. We didn't even play DDV back until that, but we have DDV now. We know how good DDV is. So then you'll have a format like Edison with DDV in it already, and then Crush Card. So you can't really build your deck to dodge either of the viruses because they're both playable.
Right, and that was one of the points that I wanted to make as well. The most impactful thing about Crush Card for the deck building aspect, in my opinion, is that unlike DDV, post-side, you can actually side deck in anticipation for DDV and mitigate your losses against it. However, with Crush Card virus, are you going to side out all your Caiuses?
No.
Are you going to side out all your Stratoses?
No.
Are you going to side out
You're
your
not siding out
aliases? Right. So the issue with Crush Card, it's kind of a catch-22. It's like, yeah, you're going to get your shit crushed, but you can't really stop anything about it happening.
Yeah.
Especially the compactional issue is that there's a lot of cards in Edison format that are just one card, Crush Card viruses. For example, Armageddonite fully at 3. Armageddonite can literally send Mally, summon Mally that turn, set Crush Card, go.
Yeah. One card by itself.
Additionally, it can do Plague as well.
Yep.
I think the other thing with just like how every deck can generally just benefit from playing Necrogarna. Any deck can kind of fit a small package of like, oh, if I play Rhoda or Warriors, every once in a while I can go Armageddonite, send a Gardener, or if I'm like, oh, I hit the nuts, I got Crush Card and Armageddonite, send the Mally. Mally is not a brick anymore in your deck. It literally Raigeki'd like 3 monsters out of your opponent's hand. Because Crush Card, unlike DDV, it hits every deck in the format. There's always monsters in your deck that are 15 or more.
Yeah.
Even if you're playing like some weird stun shit, even if you're playing fucking Winged Rhinos, all your Winged Rhinos are gone, okay?
Yeah.
They're all gone.
Yeah, Crush Card does hit every deck. Honestly, the only deck that in my head right now, the only deck that I can see honestly dodging it completely is like Frog OTK. Right, which is very underrepresented. I think it really only plays the Death Frogs and Gores, and that's literally it. And you don't even want the Death Frogs in your hand anyway. You much rather they just get like Pot of Avarice back into that deck to be used for substitute. But that's the only deck that would like Crush Card will whiff. But then at the same time, the trade-off for that is that DDV hits that deck really hard, right? So just to name some of the cards that can be Crush Card, because we did compile a list. Thank you, Stango, for doing this. Summoner Monk, Vayu, Level Eater, Battle Fader, Plague Spreader Zombie, Black Salvo, Cross Porter, Jinzo Returner, Phantom of Chaos, Infernal Prodigy, DD Crow, Malicious, Necrogardener, Spear Reaper, and obviously the big one, Sangan. And that's not literally every single one. There's more, but these are the ones that mainly would get Crush Carded. These are the ones that people would actually play. These are already played in a lot of decks. So these are just things that like people could potentially build their decks around so that they could actually Crush Card virus efficiently. But yeah, trading your smallest guy for your opponent's big field, it's kind of like another copy of Mirror Force or Torrential almost. Like your opponent is doing the most, summoning all these things, and you're just like, I'm just going to Crush Card you and kill all your stuff.
Another winner that I want to put down is definitely Diva Hero.
Yes.
And I think the reason why is that I think of how a true hero Cairo plays Diva Hero. Traditionally, he's a very aggressive Diva Hero deck built mindset.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing about Crush Card is that Sangan is one of the best cards in the deck, but also one of the worst because of just how slow it is.
Yep.
However, it searches all parts. It searches the water and it searches the hero.
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing about Crush Card for that deck is that once it's like first turn, set Sangan, set Crush Card. Your opponent draws the 6. Crush Card in the draw phase. You're like, okay, this is your hand. This is what Sangan can search. This is my hand. Can I kill you with any combination of what Sangan can search and whatever you just got wiped out of your hand? Diva Hero is very consistent at going off of a Sangan search and a random draw. Like if I got Miracle Fusion, Tuner, Sangan search into some combination, you can just go for 8100 damage in a single battle phase.
Brain
and you're
control,
like, oh,
mind control, dark armed.
Yeah, you got no Mirror Force, you have no Torrential, and I just got rid of your Gores with a Crush Card. Oh, so you're fucking dead.
Yep. So the biggest winners are, we already know Vayu, Black Wings obviously can also just play Vayu itself. I think Zombies could do fine. You know, they play Reaper, they play Sangan, stuff like that. and weirdly Hero Frogs with Infernal Prodigy and Malicious, any deck that plays Armageddon Knight. The losers though, real quick, just some of the losers. So I think Liceworn gets really hurt by Crush Card Virus. Liceworn gets really hurt by Crush Card. Machina decks in general. Every single Machina monster, Gear Frame, Fortress, Machina Force I think is big as well, if I'm not mistaken. That one too. Yeah, they get hit like any Ancient Gear, Gagillatron stuff, the Gear Town, like and that entire package.
It's even more interesting with Machina because some people can maybe argue, well, oh, you can get Fortress back. But the problem is that you'll never get another machine in your hand to do Fortress tricks unless you're playing gadgets. Like you need a small monster to pitch. So like
you need
once you're crushed,
too.
You're crushed for a while in Machina. It's really bad.
Yeah, Hero Beat also gets pretty ruined. Black Wings can get hurt a lot. Sirocco, Bora, Shura, definitely. Dark Arm Dragon, of course. And then we also have Dragon Turbo. So I thought about this. Dragon Turbo could never get a red med in their hand. Dragon Turbo is in an interesting spot because they get hurt by DDV as well. DDV makes it where they can't get a Debris Dragon or Whitestone or Flamvel Guard, right? Like they can't possibly under DDV get those cards. So if they pot, if you draw it again, it just gets destroyed. CCV makes it where you can't have red med, which is probably more important that you see red med. Like because you can't really do anything with just like the Debris Dragon usually and the other stuff. You need red med as your payoff, as your way to push. So if you get CCV'd while you're playing Dragon Turbo, sure, you can have your like smaller guys, but you cannot get a red med even if you pot.
And the interesting thing again on the defensive capabilities of Crush Card, because of the fact that Crush Card's actually hitting the OTK threat versus DDV's hitting the setup.
Yeah.
DDV you generally want to do in the beginning because you don't want them to be able to normal summon and get stones and like get the draws and stuff like that, or even set up the play of like normal summon, go in the red med. With Crush Card, you can just wait. I feel like in some situations where you're like, oh, you normal summon Debris, like, oh, you're not doing anything besides summoning red med. So I'll just go chain Crush Card.
Yep.
There goes all your red meds. So what's your play now? Like, what are you going to do now?
Yeah, that's true. Let them commit and just get everything out of here. So yeah, I think Crush Card is very broken in Edison format. And now it's time for our ending segment. How would you rate this card? So I'm thinking about this, right? I'll go first. Crush Card Virus. So we've had Card Safe Return. We've had BLS. I gave both of those a 10s and I stand by that, especially like Card Safe Return is out of control. Like I can't believe some of you guys were rating Card Safe Return at like an 8 or less. And my God, my God, was that so off the mark. Crush Card Virus, I think I don't think it's a 10. I think that it's not a 10. I do rate it highly though. I think that it's a solid 9. Like I actually think Crush Card Virus, I'm going to stick with a solid 9. I think it's very, very powerful. At one copy, you know, it's another one of those blowout cards that like, oh, if they see it, it's kind of annoying. They saw their Crush Card Virus and it's going to hurt if your deck is, you know, depending on what your deck is. But it's not like, you know, we already deal with DDV and decks win through DDV all the time. And I think that decks will win through Crush Card Virus just the same. Like it's not like the literal end of the world to get Crush Card Virus. It is going to stink, but getting DDV stinks as well. And yeah, I'm going to give it a 9. A 9 is where I'm going to sit with the Crush Card Virus.
Yeah, for me, I think the winning through DDV is a pretty valid point, but I think the only real discrepancy that I'll have with that is mainly because Crush Card attacks more win conditions than DDV does. DDV really is like kind of a shut your deck offline for a few turns.
That's definitely not true across the board though, because I think about how, okay, you hit my Black Wings but then you leave me with Blizzards, right? You hit my Monarchs but you leave me with Substitute plays and Salvage and all that. Like it really does depend, and it's not going to be when I activate this card like your win condition is completely gone. Like if you Crush Card me and I'm showing you a hand with like Salvage, Substitute, Fishboard Blaster, all that good stuff, you're not exactly happy about doing that. And likewise, even with Hero Frogs, like just showing Miracle Fusion, Junk Synchron, E-Call, Rhoda. The game has evolved since 2008 when Crush Card Virus was played. It was legal. And deck building is kind of, I was looking at deck lists like they're kind of in the middle with their big monsters and their small guys. Crush Card is better than DDV. Do not get me wrong. I do think that. I do think it's better because it does hit extra deck, and that's important. It hits extra deck. But I don't think that it completely stops all win conditions. Like, especially imagine you hit a value player with Crush Card, but then like, okay, they haven't used the Arm Wing. They haven't used the value in graveyard. So you did hit them and you took away their Sirocco. You put it in a graveyard for them, if anything.
You know, I totally agree with that. I'm just more so thinking about, because it's not really like a setup card, the way you can use it is a little bit more flexible versus like, I feel like oftentimes with DDV, the longer you wait, the more you miss out on, because the more they start doing stuff with their smaller monsters, like you're getting less value versus Crush Card. Sometimes shotgunning it is probably right versus some decks, but a lot of the times I think of it where I'm just thinking from an ideal situation. I'm like, Sangan, set Crush Card. They're like, Whirlwind, get Shura, search a Bora because their hand calls for it or anything like that. You're like, oh, Battle Phase, attack. Chain crush card, take that monster,
Well,
wait
you
for
can even
battle
just
phase,
chain
get
it.
a search.
You don't even have to let them search the Bora. You can just chain Crush Card
Right.
Virus, and then it hits the Shura like a bottomless trap hole. It's like an extra copy of Torrential
Right,
Tribute.
yeah, and even in that way as well.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like the flexibility where it's like it's kind of a good play stopper on top of the fact that it disrupts like their big monsters or win conditions and stuff like that. As far as the rating, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I don't think it's nearly the same power level. When I kind of think of my card of safe return rating, I was being a little modest on it. I seeing in action, it should have been a 10. I'm definitely a little bit more on the 9 scale for this one. Just because I feel the same way of what you're saying. DDV and Crush Card, they're really good at what they do. They're not perfect cards because there are circumstances where they don't come up versus, getting a draw anytime you special summon out of the grave is always just fantastic.
Yeah, that's just, it changes the entire format to be able to do stuff like that. Crush Card is like, it's a trap card. Trap cards are not as powerful as spell cards just in general. So
right. So I'm on board with a 9. 9 is how I feel.
Yeah, I think that's good. What do you guys give it? In the comments, let us know how do you feel about Crush Card Virus in Edison format. What would you think? How do you feel it would be? How impactful do you think it would be? What rating would you give it? Let us know. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Push.